नमस्कार। Monsoon session from July 21. Early announcement is comments from New Delhi. The monsoon session of Parliament will be held from July 21 to August 12 with the government on Wednesday drawing up the schedule for recommendation to President Draupadi Murmu. Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiran Rijiju has decided to inform the President to convene the session from July 21 to August 12. The decision was taken at a meeting of the Cabinet Committee on Parliamentary Affairs chaired by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. The announcement much ahead of the actual commencement of the session drew sharp responses from the Congress and ANC. Both parties said such an early announcement of the session schedule was meant to erect focus on the collective opposition demand to convene a special session. To discuss the Pahalgam terror attack, Operation Sindhu, and US Retail Trump, Syria claimed affiliation in a secession of hostilities between India and Pakistan. Congress General Secretary Jairam Ramesh today said the session was always announced a few days in advance, perhaps up to 1 week or 10 days in advance. Never before in India's parliamentary history has a session been announced for this days in advance. There is a continuing demand from the Indian National Congress and the India Bloc parties for a special session to discuss the Pahalgam attack. The fact that the terrorists have not been brought to justice and the repeated claims of President Trump, the American surrender the high nation of India and Pakistan, the growing nexus between China and Pakistan, and the failure of diplomacy and foreign policy are also critical issues. Ramesh said these were the real concerns alongside the regulations with respect to combat losses of Chief of Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan made in Singapore and not in our own country. We are demanding a discussion on these issues now because they are agitating the people of India. Why was population Sindhu stopped suddenly after 4 days? Why did President Trump repeat to the time in 20 days that the ceasefire happened because of him? These are the questions the Prime Minister does not want to answer. To divert attention from special session, the government suddenly announces the monsoon session of Parliament. The Prime Minister can event a special session, but he cannot escape the monsoon session, the Congress veteran said. However, the government through the Zulu noted that every session was a special session for it. All important matters can be discussed during the monsoon session. The Business Advisory Committee of Both Houses will take a call on the issues to be discussed. The minister added, with Operation Sindoor set to be discussed along with the impeachment motion against Justice Yashwant Verma, the other recent agenda. The Tribunal Congress also attacked the government for announcing a session when opposition parties have been seeking a special meeting to discuss the Pahalgam attack. TMC's Rajya Sabha MP Derek O'Brien said parliamentarophobia, my word for the acute condition of Modi government, have a morbid fear of facing parliament, running away from a special session. BGCA flags measures safety lapses by Turkish Airlines. Stand with Delhi against terror networks in Pak, India, hackers. From New Delhi, the India hackers, a powerful voice in the US Congress, have expressed strong support for India in its efforts to dismantle terrorist networks operating from Pakistan. Following a meeting with an our party Indian delegation led by MP Shashi Tharoor in Washington DC on Wednesday, US Congressman Aro Khanna said the delegation represents India's pluralism and unity across political religious lines in condemning Pakistan-backed terrorism. The US has a bipartisan commitment with India relationship and to standing with India against these terror networks. India tackles global sphere which Warning added, we, India, US are not just gonna be friends, we are gonna be allies. The future of the world depends on it. The Indian delegation will continue with 2 days engagement with US lawmakers, including meetings with the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and the House Foreign Affairs Committee and Eastern for the Indian Embassy in the US. The team will also engage with leading think tanks, media, and the Indian diaspora and will speak at the Council on Foreign Relations on Thursday. The visit comes on the heels of Home Secretary Vikram Misri's recent trip to Washington, where India and the US discussed expanding trade and technology cooperation. Apart from Tharoor, the delegation includes MPs from across party lines, Sarfraz Ahmad, Gayanti Harish Mathur, Balyogi, Sushant Mani Tripathi, Bhuvneshwar, Kalita Belinda Dior, Yashvi Surya, and India's former ambassador to the US, Taranjit Sandhu. The delegation has already visited Guyana, Panama, Colombia, and Brazil. US charges too from China for smuggling toxic fungus. India used to boost defense tech ties from New Delhi. India and Australia on Wednesday agreed to expand and diversify their defense industry collaboration and explore joint projects in defense, science, and technology. The Ministry of Defense set up a meeting between Defense Minister Rajnath Singh and his Australian counterpart Richard Marles, Australian Deputy Prime Minister in New Delhi. The MOD said discussions covered a broad range of issues, including strategic cooperation, cybersecurity, counterterrorism, maritime and hydrographic security, and collaboration on emerging technologies. The two Quad partners also reaffirmed their commitment to free and open Indo-Pacific and Pacific Alliance region. Singh underlined India's right to act in self-defense against cross-border terrorism, describing the recent operations in Noor as major non-escalatory, proportionate and responsible. Wednesday also marked 5 years of India Australia Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. Earlier in the day, Mass was accorded a ceremonial welcome with Ankara Services Guard of Honor and led a wreath at the National War Memorial. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar reaffirmed India's commitment to strengthening its partnership with Australia, identifying critical minerals, cybersecurity technology, space, and sports as emerging areas of collaboration. Prime Minister, Australian Deputy Prime Minister, discussing Indo-Pacific stability. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met Australian Deputy Prime Minister and Defence Minister Richard Marles in New Delhi on Wednesday. The two leaders discussed their shared vision for a stable, secure, and prosperous Indo-Pacific and underscored the growing depth of bilateral ties, particularly in defense and strategic cooperation amid evolving regional challenges. US charges sued from China for smuggling toxic fungus from New Delhi in a case dubbed as agro-terrorism by Federal Bureau of Investigation Director Kash Patel. Two Chinese nationals have been charged in the US for smuggling a harmful biological pathogen into the country, raising serious national security and biosecurity concerns. RCB victory celebrations turn tragic. 11 killed, 30 hurt in Bangalore stampede. CM Siddharabhai orders magisterial probe. 10 lakh rupees relief for Kinnock deceased. From Bangalore, the celebrations for the RCB's first ever IPL win turned tragic on Wednesday as at least 11 persons were killed and over 30 injured in a stampede outside the Chinnaswamy Stadium after thousands of RCB fans gathered to catch a glimpse of the team. 11 are dead and 33 injured due to the stampede near the Chinnaswamy Stadium in Bengaluru. More than 2-3 lakh people came and no one expected this much crowd. Karnataka Chief Minister Sitabai said at a press conference, we said the stadium could only accommodate 35,000 spectators. The Chief Minister announced a magisterial inquiry into the incident and requested the compensation to of the deceased. Draft erodes judiciary's trust swift action can restore it, CJI says from New Delhi. Flags ethical concerns over retired judges entering politics. As the government considers initiating removal proceedings against Justice Yashwant Verma of the Allahabad High Court following discovery of uncounted case at his residence, Chief Justice of India (CJI) B.R. Gavai has called for swift decisive and class-saving action to address judicial misconduct. Speaking at a round-table discussion at a UK Supreme Court on maintaining judicial legitimacy and public confidence, last evening CJI ruled out accepting any post-retirement position. If a judge takes up a government appointment immediately after retirement or resigns from the bench to contest elections, it raises significant ethical concern that invites public security to be stated, acknowledging that every system, no matter how robust, is susceptible to issue of professional misconduct. The CJI said, sadly, there have been instances of corruption and misconduct even within the judiciary. Such occurrences inevitably undermine the confidence and this eroding faith in the integrity of the entire system. The CJ shared the path to rebuilding this trust lies in the swift, decisive and transparent action taken to address and resolve these issues. In India, when such instances have come to light, the Supreme Court has consistently taken immediate and appropriate measures to address the misconduct. This, after based after a three-judge inquiry panel, indicted Justice Verma, who was the unfounded as to be CMR question of single success says just something unwarranted. At Haryana, on the event, we travel arms against nationalism, federalism. From Chandigarh, it is significant to event because this organizational structure in Haryana, leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha, Rahul Gandhi had extensive discussions with senior leaders under the party's Santan Susan Abhiyan. Santan Susan Abhiyan, a campaign aimed at international resignation. Top Tiger body flags, coaching results, plans on nationalism, monsoon session of Parliament starts on July 21. Opponents started sheer Center reviews COVID situation and states to take required steps. Chandigarh student found dead at hostel room inside IIT Delhi. Abandoned by king mentally challenged find refuse at Mangal couple shelter. Now news from Haryana. Demarcation walk resumes in Jamuna to end 7 decade dispute between Haryana and UP that are allotted for building 30 pillars. News from Karnal, the Public Works Department (PWD), following approval from the state government, has resumed the long-stalled project of erecting demarcation pillars in the Yamuna along the Haryana-UP border to settle a dispute that has simmered for over 7 decades. In 10 years, less than 90% houses allotted under the Minister scheme. News from Rohtak. Information received in response to a right to information RTI application has revealed that less than 90% target has been achieved under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana in Haryana within the past 10 years. Previously named Indra Awas Yojana, the scheme was renamed Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana and relaunched on June 25, 2015. The main objective of the scheme was to provide affordable housing to poor residents in urban areas. Subhas, the state coordinator of the Haryana Sujna Adhikar Manch, had filed the RTA application seeking details about the implementation of the scheme in the state. In response, the state public information officer of the housing department Haryana maintained that the state was given a target of 67,649 houses at the time of the launch of the scheme. However, in nearly 10 years, only 12,781 houses had been constructed, nearly 18.89% of the target. As per the reply, another 15,845 houses are under construction, but there is no information on when they will be completed. An amount of rupees 570.07 crore has been allocated to Haryana under the PMAY in the past 9 years. This money is meant for beneficiaries under the below poverty line. Effectively, the assistance for the construction of a house is also provided in installments. Many government schemes can benefit eligible residents if implemented in a smooth and transparent manner, but most of these are hindered by techno-official hurdles, delaying the implementation of the welfare program and depriving the intended beneficiaries, said Subhash. COVID genome sequencers lying defunct at two Rohtak institutes. News from Rohtak. Genome sequencing equipment at PGIMS as well as Maharishi Devan University MDU in Rohtak, which were launched with much fanfare to identify COVID variants have been lying unused for want of reasons. Even fresh cases of the disease are being reported from different parts of the state. Reagents are substances used to measure, detect, or create other substances during chemical reactions conducted in laboratories. A next generation sequencing NGS facility was set up at the Department of Biotechnology and Molecular Medicine of PGIMS in August 2022 under the project announced called Nanopore sequencer machine was provided by the United States Agency for International Development. The machine was used to identify COVID variants in more than 100 samples, but is currently not in use for one of reasons, said Dr. Dhalapandi, the head department of biotechnology and molecular medicine at BGIMS. He said the institute's administration had been requested to provide the requisite reagents. Next generation genome sequencing laboratory set up on the MDU campus at a cost of rupees 1.2 crore by the Rockefeller Foundation in October 2021 is also not being used currently for want of agents. We have not got any COVID samples from the PGMS for identification of variants and as of now, genome sequencing machine or the multidisciplinary research unit at the institute. So, as to resume genome sequencing of coronavirus, the director maintained. He pointed out that genome sequencing of coronavirus has no role in the testing or treatment of COVID, but it helps in the identification of the coronavirus variant. Medical experts maintain that different variants of coronavirus have already been detected and identified, but the possibility of the prevalence of new variants cannot be ruled out. Like other viruses, coronavirus also mutates frequently and appears multiple variants. Identification of emergency variants is crucial to carry out research on the virus. The variants seen in the current wave are highly infectious but not as deadly as the state model officer for COVID-19. CBI next child sexual abuse case arrest accused from Usar district. Lusogno daily in a significant operation against child sexual exploitation. The Central Bureau of Investigation CBI had arrested a man from Usar district for allegedly raping and sexually assaulting multiple minor girls and producing child sexual abuse material. The accused was identified as Somnath Element Orusa. Kumar Ratan University employees suspended. University comes scam. ACS shares meet on treatment to accident victims. Railways to speed up good train under Ambala unit. News from Ambala. Dedicated freight corridor corporation of India Limited has started focusing on increasing the average speed of the goods train to ensure the maximum utilization of the corridor and increase goods traffic. As per information, due to speed restrictions and detentions, the average speed is 35 to 40 kilometers per hour, and the railway authorities are trying to increase it to 40 to 45 kilometers per hour. A nearly 400 kilometers track under the Ambala unit, a single line track a day. It was getting around 50 trains, of which the major traffic was diverted by the railway, and officials said if the average speed is increased and detention are reduced, more trains can be easily operated on the corridor. A tender for a feasibility study check for the turning of the track under the Ambala unit has also been awarded. Pankaj Gupta, Chief Minister Manager DFCCAL Ambala said the tracks are designed for the top speed of 100 kilometers per hour, while the goods train with low-rate wagons run a speed of around 75 kilometers per hour. Due to speed restrictions at various locations, detention and crossing the average speed remained around 35 to 40 kilometers per hour. We are focusing on increasing the average speed, and increasing speed will help in the faster transportation of goods, attracting more traffic and operating more trains. The average speed of the Salem Wal Pilkhani section is touching over 40 kilometers per hour already, while it was 35 kilometers per hour from the Burza Pilkhani section due to restrictions. He said. Turn blind eye to wrong answer in Jam High Court says. This is from Chandigarh. The Punjab and Haryana High Court had held that courts cannot stay silent if an answer chosen by a selection board in a competitive examination is clearly wrong, as it would harm deserving candidates and violate their right to equality and fair opportunity. The High Court cannot turn a blind eye if selection board has selected an answer which cannot be accepted at all. If there is doubt, the benefit of the doubt must go to the selection agency. However, in the absence of doubt, if opinion of selection agency is accepted, it would entail casualty of marriage, miscarriage of justice, and violation of Articles 14 and 18 of the Constitution of India. Justice Jagmohan Bansal asserted, emphasizing its role as a sentinel on the QI or watchful guardian of fundamental rights. He observed that securing a government job was not a fundamental right but denial of appointment due to taxes on the government's part would constitute a violation of the right to equality to employment once a candidate crossed the cutoff mark. Constitutional courts are custodians of fundamental rights. One cannot be heard to claim that government job is his fundamental right. However, the moment he cuts the ice and crosses the cutoff barrier, it cannot be ignored on account of taxes on the part of government machinery justice grandson's head. The bench was winning 25 petitions, 25 petitions challenging an answer key issued on December 17, 2018, and the final result declared on March 4, 2019. For some inspected post, the petitioners alleged that correct objections to erroneous answers were summarily rejected without due application of money. Senior advocate D.S. Prabhakar commented that the objections were decided in a mechanical manner. Now, newsroom. Haryana procured sunflower only towards Atyas to government. Women police station in charge suspended. Sesa. In a case of negligence and neglected and alleged corruption, the in charge of Sesta Women Police Station, Shyam Devi, has been suspended by SP Dr. Meet Gupta. This action comes after a complaint surfaced accusing the officer of attempting to settle a rape case for rupees 20 lakh with the accused. A woman from Ahmedabad had filed a rape complaint at the police station. Instead of taking proper legal action, it is alleged that the officers involved tried to arrive at a compromise with the accused for money. This complaint reached the SP's office, prompting immediate action. The SP suspended Ghanshyam Devi for negligence and irregularities in duty. She has also been transferred to the police lines. Departmental inquiries have been ordered against Sub-Inspector Komal Devi and another unidentified officer involved in the matter. The SP has made it clear that any misconduct would not be tolerated. 194 active SIM cards seized in Sirsa, one held issued by using fake documents. News of Sirsa, the CIA team of the Lavali police have unearthed an illegal SIM card package. The accused Shubham, agent of the one, was caught with 495 active SIM cards in of Geo to 75 BSNL, all issued through fake documents. A team on a tip of cops apprehended Shubham from near an abandoned stadium on Alika Road. BJP said Gulf City Yatra from today. From Sonipat, the BJP today announced the launch of the Gulf City Yatra from June 5 to August 15 to disseminate its achievements over the past 11 years. Satish Punia, BJP state in charge and state president Mohanlal Gadoli, announced the Yatra at a press conference after concluding a meeting at the party office here. The program will commence on the occasion of World Environment Day with a one tree in the name of Mother campaign, in which sapling will be planted at every booth at Punia. He said on June 8, the national president of the BJP would initiate Sankalp Siddhi meetings at the Shakti Kendra level to highlight the party's policies and principles. Gadoli said the past 11 years have not only been about governance but also about service and sustainable development. India had become the fourth largest economy under the leadership of Prime Modi and had witnessed a new form of progress with comprehensive development across all sectors, he said. Gadoli said Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Martyrdom Day would be observed on June 23. from Punjab. 10% had on SP noise. 10% had on SPD charged by the state of costs in month. Real time actionable intelligence led six arrests in Haryana, Rajasthan, and Himachal too. Man cabinet approves amendment to Shops Act political row over appointment of ministers OST. Realtors get notices for selling plots and registering projects. High Court drafts special DGP for acting in casual manner. CM inaugurates command, control and crime response center in Dharamshala. 33 tourist locals trapped in search past avalanche rescue. Government hospitals to levy 10 rupees consultation fee. Now mask mandatory in medical facilities across the state. Government imposes complete ban on teachers transfer. Thunderstorm rain lash parts of state. Operations in Blue and over attention. Canada sees G7 snub. IPL fireworks glory of Kohli. Young guns to recall. Geopolitical state rise over way of control. Why Gaza and Middle East floods full of Delhi. News from Jammu and Kashmir or Ladakh over 40 workers employed in Katra Kashmir rail project. CDP targets government of 25% quota for workers in Ladakh. News from Nation ensure adequate oxygen beds government to states as COVID cases rise. Testing recommended for all admitted severe respiratory patient from New Delhi in view of the recent increase in COVID-19 cases. The Union Health Ministry had asked the states to ensure availability of oxygen, isolation beds, ventilators, and essential medicines. Official sources have informed that a mock drill assessing oxygen supply system was conducted on June 2. Facility level preparedness mock drills are planned for June 5. A series of technical review meetings were held on June 2 and 3 under the chairpersonship of Dr. Sunita Sharma, Director General Health Services, with responsibilities of the Disaster Management Cell, Emergency Management Response Cell, National Center for Disease Control, Indian Council of Medical Research, Integrated Disease Surveillance Program, and Central Government Hospital in New Delhi with representatives from all states and duties to evaluate the current COVID-19 situation and preparedness measures. The COVID cases are mild and self-limiting since January 1 this year. 44 deaths have been reported primarily among individuals with pre-existing illnesses. As of June 4, India reported 4,302 active cases of COVID. States and district surveillance units and IDSP are closely monitoring influenza illness and severe acute respiratory illness. Testing is recommended for all admitted SARS cases and 5% of ISI cases as per the evidence. Positive SARI sample are sent for whole genome sequencing to the ICMR VRDL network official said. The public is advised to practice hand hygiene and tough attitude to avoid crowded places when unwell. Individuals with acute respiratory illness should self-monitor and seek medical care if symptoms worsen. While doing a judge is not easy, it is being explained here by the explainer from today. considering moving a motion in the ensuing session of Parliament for removing Justice Yashwant Verma of the Allahabad High Court, who has been indicted for recovery of uncounted cases during a fire incident at his residence here on March 14. But it's not an easy task, as no judge of the Supreme Court or any High Court has been removed since January 26, 1950, when the Constitution came into force. Constitutional provisions, Article 124 read with Articles 217, 1B and 218 provide for the removal of a Supreme Court judge and a High Court judge respectively for proved misbehavior or incapacity. The judge can be removed from office by an order of the President after both houses of Parliament separately pass a motion for his removal by a majority of not less than two-thirds of the members present and voting. Article 124 5 authorities Parliament to enact a law to regulate the procedure for the presentation of an address and for the investigation and proof of the misbehavior or incapacity of a judge as mentioned under Article 124.4. Accordingly, Parliament has enacted the Judges Enquiry Act 1968, which provides for the procedure for the removal of judges. Case against Justice Sharma FIR broken out on March 14 at 12:65 p.m. at the residence of Justice Yashwant Sharma, who was then Delhi High Court judge in a storeroom stocked with stationery and domestic articles. To file tenders reached the spot of 11:43 p.m. and doused the fire in 15 minutes. It was alleged that unaccounted gun case was recovered from the site. Supreme Court dismisses Delhi Waqf Board plea claiming Gurudwara property. India opposes KDP funding to park over misuse concern. Calm BJP suffer over PM Sundar Ji. Operation Sindhu proves Atmanirbhar in defense demonstrations from New Delhi. President Modi on Wednesday described Operation Sindhu as a milestone in India's journey towards Atmanirbhar self-reliance in defense and self besides being tactically brilliant. The exercise mirrored seamless integration of indigenous high-tech system into national military operation. The Supreme Court spoke of how Operation Sindhu stood up as a calibrated military response to an evolving pattern of asymmetry warfare, with the Indian military destroying 9 terror hubs in Pakistan in just 23 minutes. Noting Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's recent admission of how BrahMos hit here based is deep inside Pakistan, the Prime Minister said Indian system bypassed and jammed Pakistan's Chinese supplied air defenses. Prime Minister Operation Sindhu had validated India's defense intelligence policies and proven that India can not only defend its people and territory but also asserts its role as a high-tech military power. Blending strength with conscience, India won the war before the war, while the world watched. In the swirl of claims and counterclaims after Operation Sindoor, the truth was quietly sidelined. Pakistan flaunted tale of downed Indian aircraft and heroic resistance in military run media machine and expert in psychological optics spun a victory narrative, then came the grand spectacle. General Asim Munir was promoted to Field Marshal with reward for greenlighting the Pahalgam attack. Now he shoulders it. But here is the core reality. This was a campaign of maneuver, not attribution, not attrition, aimed squarely at the enemy's will. Pakistan sued for peace before it truly began. Every time its terror gambit faces consequences, Pakistan retreats into spectacle, missiles tossed, jet down, heroic last stands. These are illusions crafted for a public long held captive by a military first state and army with a nation. What happened instead assaults on Indian territory, repulsed to a nick. The Joint Air Defense Show was a masterclass calculated, cohesive and coordinated, a message that should be comprehensively pieced by those who dream of aerial mischief. Wars are not won by trending hashtags or by giving state funerals to terrorists dragged in military honor. They are won when the armies or infrastructure is disturbed, when 11 airfields go dark, one precise operation. That's when back channels layer to life no out of strength but out of the fear of what next. As the CDS observed, there was no nuclear server rattling, no call, no warning. No civilian casualties, no escalation into operation center, yet airfields, logistics hubs and launch pads were struck with precision. Then Pakistan DCMO reached out not under global pressure, but because India changed the rules. Military doctrine in motion, military tourism, no plan survive first contact with the enemy. Operation Sindoor was not different, but what followed was more telling. Tactical adjustments were immediate. Operational responses required coordination across commands. Strategy recalibration demands clarity and speed. Operation Sindoor demonstrated all three. From the front line to air bases to the highest military echelons, each platform and level of command acted with coherence and control. It was professionalism in motion across the full chain of command, energy glitching, observed and corrected became a turning point. Yet, even as India recalibrated in real time, adversaries rushed to declare victory. Triumphalism based on partial facts, amplified by platforms that never asked what happened next. Within hours of claiming dominance, Pakistan lost operational use of 11 airfields, silence replaced luster, propaganda gave way to paralysis of Operation Sindhu demonstrated what 21st century military doctrine must aim for low cost, high impact outcomes that prevent escalation. The operation became a lesson in calibrated deterrence, time, culmination, the Indian model across the modern battlefield. Wars begin easily but rarely end. Now, lingered, yeah, fractured, Afghanistan collapsed, Russia Ukraine drags on, Gaza remains a wound with no closure. Great powers dominate airspace. In 1971, 30,000 entrenched Pakistani soldiers in Dhaka surrendered to 3,000 Indian troops on the move. The ratio was 10-1 in all. Pakistan capitulated in 30 days, 90,000 POWs. It was victory of mind over matter. Men over attrition, not conquest, but conclusion. Now in 2025, Operation Sindoor executed in 88 hours and a conflict terminating objective dominate the escalated space. India enforced consequences then chose restraint in court cases. India didn't just fight well. It ended well. That's the rarest art in strategy. Why did India control escalation? Because Pakistan's instability is manufactured, not accidental. The world knows it. Neighbors definitely do. Yet the myth continued, sustained by fear, denial, and spectacle. Nations do not rise on martyrdom or manipulated memories. They rise when people refuse to be misled. When the public when the public ceases to serve the lie, the truth finds its place. Until then, silence fuels the cycle. Instability as the base, the real game around Pakistan. 4 years. 4 years, Pakistan vulnerability has been treated not as a threat but as a tool. China, Pakistan, long time pattern benefits from an Indian constantly drawn into reactive posture. Distracted India shows gazing strategic aims from Ladakh to the Indian Ocean. The United States, despite long acknowledging Pakistan's duplicity, still sees its military as a useful conduit whether for regional outage, hindrance or access to Afghanistan, even multilateral institutions and segments of the Western press had their bets. Pakistan military curates victim mood by incubating instability and the world knowingly plays along. In this global theater, Pakistan has become a proxy, not just for terror but a transactional diplomacy. And India for too long bore the coast alone. Operation Sindoor challenged that not by shouting but by showing. India cannot talk to proxies, but the people of Pakistan can choose not to be used. Right, clean governance begins not with outsiders but with the nation's own citizens telling their army, "Sir, do not rule, integrate, do not destroy," because a puppet on a string may entertain the world, but it only dances for the puppeteer. When the show ends, it is the people who pay the price. The Indian doctrine, clarity, and conquest India's strategic posture has evolved. We are no longer reactive, we respond precisely, professionally, and with purpose. Operation Sindoor reflects a mature doctrine, no overkill, yet enough to after behavior, no spectacle, yet enough to jolt probability evolved one before it escalated. India does not need to destroy Pakistan to declare. We only need to show we can, but choose not to. This is strength. With conscience, this clarity, this blend of capability and restraint makes India's Calibrated veterans credible in ways brute force never could when adversaries cannot predict you and allies cannot second guess you when you equilibrium emerges when English India's assertive yet aligned with its values. The wars before the war. Operation Sindhu wasn't about platform or payloads. It was about clarity, initiative, and control in a world where wars drag on, inflicting brutal cost on civilian men, women, and children. India has offered a different model manual over attrition, where others try to adjust, we act to continue, where others escalate into chaos, we calibrate for stability, and just like Dhaka, the enemy blinked not after the war began, but before it could. Let the record show India won the war before the war, while the nations of the world watched some nervously, others knowing, others knowingly, but all know undeniably today. Thank you. Thanks all of you, all my brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, students, scholar, teacher, trainer, professor, professional, listener, learner, the most honorable present, Mr. Modi ji, respected Minister and Manager, Additional Doctor and Director, Advocate, Supervisor, Mr. Advisor. I heartily welcome once again. Thank you. Thanks all of you.